by Sideline Sports Network. We appreciate everybody that has continued to support Spirit Addicts and continue to support each and every one of us. Um, I solely appreciate those that fight our wars and battles for us personally. All the people that go after the ignorance of others. Really appreciate that. That this way we can stay professional and we let y'all do our fighting for us because y'all know what we do and how we do it. And you also know that we have no ill will intent toward anyone. And you also know that we don't steal a damn thing from anyone. Um, Also, this episode is brought to you by Game Day Vodka, as all the other ones. Game Day Vodka is an American made, an American distilled, an American bottled, and American sold company. So, if you want to get some of their products, you can go to their website as long as you're 21 years or older, or you can go to Publix if you have one local, or ABC Wine and Spirits if it is local to you. Game Day Vodka is the official vodka of Florida State University amongst 8 others, and they are also the official vodka of non-NFL teams, and they are working on more. So we appreciate our sponsor as well. We also appreciate everyone for supporting them. I've been told that their sales for Florida State vodka has went up tremendously since they've started with us. So appreciate y'all supporting them, which in all supports us. VJ, welcome to the chat. Mike, welcome to the chat. Uh, Appreciate all the birthday wishes. Yes, I'm officially old now. I'm 33 years old. I don't know when you can initially say that you're old, but I'm saying that 33 makes you old enough. Um, First off, and like how do I say this the right way? I don't name people when they make mistakes. I don't go after people for making ignorant comments. I don't go after people for doing really, really dumb things, especially when it should be completely beneath their professionalism. But when I get attacked and we get attacked by fans all the time that might disagree with the way we see things. That's one thing, and that's fine. I will tell people to move on if they don't want to watch our show. I've said it multiple times. Um, but I don't direct that toward everyone because everyone doesn't have a problem with the way we speak or with the way that we put things out there. But those that don't agree with the way we put things out there, you can criticize us all that you want. But once you start attacking someone personally or calling them a liar or a cheater or a thief, and those things aren't to be true, then yes, I will full fledged go to war with you because it's not right to call out people for something that they didn't do. So it's completely unfair for you to do so. Um, I don't know where a lot of these media outlets, and I'm saying a lot because there's not just one in particular that usually has a problem. Um, the bigger that we get, the bigger that we individually get. Taylor has taken on, I don't know, he's at 15,000 some odd subscribers on Instagram. He's got a decent amount of subscribers on YouTube. He has a decent amount of followers on Twitter, and he has a decent amount of followers on Facebook, as do I, and as does James. I don't have 15,000 followers on Instagram, but I do better on Facebook and I do better on YouTube than I have once before. For some particular reason, people think that you have to be this huge media group to get sources or people to talk to you about what's coming or what's here. And I could not name the amount of things that Taylor, James, and I have talked about weeks upon weeks. At one point, we talked about something that was 6 months in advance before it was released on Florida State. And we did not get that from any of these big media outlet um, companies. I don't know anyone at 247. I don't know anyone at War Chant. I don't know anyone at On 3. I know of people. I know their names, but I don't know them, nor do I subscribe to any of them. I don't have a subscription to War Chant. I don't have one to 247. I don't have one to On 3. I don't have one on to any individual at all. Taylor doesn't. And to my knowledge, James doesn't, because I don't understand why we would need it, nor do I understand why we would pay for something that we know for free. We do not release things that we're not a breaking news type media outlet. We're not out here to break news. I haven't seen Taylor try to break news once since I've been around him. Haven't seen James try to break news once since I've been around him. I haven't tried to break news once since I have been in this. Now, I will say this: when I brought up that Florida State was looking into the SEC or the Big Ten, I will say that I was one of the first ones to drop that, bring it back up from the initial conversation that had happened near a year before that. I brought it up because I had the athletic director himself tell me that there were conversations happening between conferences, and I brought it up. I said Florida State's in conversation with the SEC. Florida State's in the conversation with the Big Ten. I wasn't trying to break news. It was common knowledge. If they'll tell me, then hell, they told everybody. That's how I looked at it. There was a mishap today where someone thinks that no one else has sources or no one speaks to anyone else besides their media outlet, and they're completely incorrect. The gentleman to the top right of the screen has receipts from when this was told to him damn near 4 days ago, 5 days ago, and it wasn't from anybody at his media source or any other media source for that. So, for all of those that think that they know what they're talking about or think that someone stole something from them, I will immediately tell them to kiss my ass because it's untrue. Don't go lying on people because it makes you look better, and don't go creating drama because it creates clicks for your page. No one was trying to get you riled up, and no one was trying to get you to pay attention to little old Spear Addicts or to little old Norvell Central. Well, nobody trying to get that. So we were doing what we thought was right. Taylor does what he thinks is right. He has no harm will toward anyone. We don't try to hurt anybody in this. We're doing this because we love this university and we love releasing the information to the fan base that we have so built with a lot of hard work and not a whole bunch of bullshit and not a whole bunch of help from big media. If you put me with a name behind me like some of these guys have got, I would love to see where I would be sitting at follower wise. But I don't have that backing. I'm creating my own backing. James has created his thing from the ground up. Taylor has created his thing from the ground up. So if anybody has a problem with the way we're creating things, don't watch us. Don't look at us. Move on into your own realm of doing things. And if you just must watch us or must bitch about what we do, then you're subject to be told to kiss our ass. It's that simple. But with that, we're going to move on to the show itself. Getting a little bit of that out of the way. I don't pay anything for any of this BS that they've got going on. That I'm answering the question real quick, but we had a huge, in my opinion, a huge, as in size, body size wise too. We had a huge commitment today from Kyle Morlock, 6'7", 250-pound tight end from Shorter University. It's a Division II school. The young man's I think, former 4-star athlete, if I'm not mistaken. He's a huge get for Florida State. It's going to be a huge. How do I say this the right way, y'all? I'm pissed off about what happened earlier, so forgive me. But this is a huge get for Florida State. What production he's going to put on the field. A lot of people call him Baby Gronk. I don't know if Baby Gronk. I don't know how big Gronk is. I don't know if he's 6'7" or not, but he is being considered Baby Gronk. Taylor, your first initial thoughts after watching and seeing Kyle, what are your thoughts on him?
Well, I mean, he's a 6'7", 250-pound tight end, can block efficiently as an inline blocker, can also be a receiver a little bit in space as well. I think he kind of covers up the fact that basically Jaheim Bell is kind of his weakness is blocking. I think that was one kind of concern that a lot of sources that I have over at the South Carolina side were talking about. And they were all talking about how his opportunities that he has had in the offense really hasn't been great. His camp has talked about it also, that the opportunities that he had in the offense weren't great. Then you get two tight ends with Kyle Morlock and also with Jaheim Bell. I think Morlock brings that kind of blocking physical mindset that a Jordan Wilson used to have with Cam McDonald, and you're seeing a better Cam McDonald with Jaheim Bell. So I think that's a situation now where everybody talks about Chris Thompson being kind of, I guess you could say, on the hot seat. You've looked at the previous coaches that have been at Florida State. You talk about 2020 with John Papuchis. Florida State only had 9 sacks in 10 games. Guess what happened? The next year they had 33 sacks. Then you turn over and have Ron Dugans. He was on the hot seat potentially. He didn't get a receiver in either of the class after Kevin Coleman and Devon Mortimer both went to other schools. He went ahead and got some transfer portal prospects, and then he was able to transform that room into something special, into a top half of the ACC contributors. So I think that's something you really have to understand is Florida State with those 2 tight end sets with Morlock and now Bell, you're physical. You're playing bully ball with these people. I mean, this is a situation where Florida State wants to be physical at the point of attack, and I think they've completely done it here.
Can I ask you a question? Who'd you read that from and steal it from so you could put it out? I'm just wondering. James, what are your thoughts on Kyle Morlock and us getting him? You called it. You said that the next guy that was going to commit was Kyle Morlock. We both picked Devontae Brown. You asked what you won. I don't know what you won. We'll get you something. But what are your thoughts on Kyle Morlock?
Just in general, I want to give shout outs to Coach Thompson. Like I said, I remember meeting him for the first time which I hope Norvell goes back to doing it. They've done the youth camp consistently, but when they first got the job, they went to every major city and they went to a hotel, bought out the lobby basically, and fed local coaches and had them be able to come in there. And it was a meet and greet. Good times. Coach Thompson, my first meeting with him, the man had a plate of lemon pepper wet hot wings. And that's a man after my own heart. And you know what? And he wasn't even selfish. He said, "Hey man, go get you a wing, big man." And I was like, "Cool." I mean, listen, anybody, it ain't hard to win me over. Give me some chicken wings and some libations, and we can be friends for life. But he, what he's been able to do. Obviously we saw Cam McDonald have one of the better years this year, which is a great recruiting thing. So it's like it's all about proof of concept, right? So you see what Cam McDonald's done. You see what Biscuit's been able to do. You're actually targeting these guys, but now it's about what happens when we can get somebody a little bit more athletic. So you got Jaheim Bell, who was the number 30 prospect. I want to make sure I properly cite so I don't get bashed. Per Rivals ranking of portal players, Jaheim Bell is the number 30th ranked prospect, and now you have Morlock, who's the 19th overall prospect. So I think he's a 4-star in the per transfer situation. So he gives you something different. I think I talked about it on the show. So now when you got the basic package, the Spider 2 wide banana, what everybody like, which John Gruden made famous, you got Johnny Wilson going up. Basically, either he's going to run a deep pitch or he's going to run a fade. You've got either a slam release or coming underneath the line of scrimmage to the flat route for Jaheim Bell. You got Biscuit on a drag 1 yard into the end zone, and now you got Big 6'7" running the back of the end zone right there. So there's plenty of targets right there for a for Travis. I was about to say Travis Jordan for Jordan Travis. And also just makes you it's just funny because now you can go 13. That's 13 personnel, not 12 personnel, people. That's 13. We're gonna have 3 tight ends out there at the same time. And if we really want to get snazzy, you got the young man who was committed, who's actually pretty athletic as well at tight end. We can go 14 personnel. I hate to say this because it's kind of a disrespectful way when you say it, but Georgia has 5 legit tight ends that could start anywhere in the nation. Right now, we have a great value version of what Georgia has up there. So I don't mean that it's disrespect to what Florida State has, but we haven't proven it yet. Georgia actually has a proof of concept with that. But being able to trot that out there, being able to trot out 5 wides, being able to run your entire offensive system, regardless of the personnel, makes matchup nightmares for the ACC, which helps us because you can only game plan for so much.
Well, there are some obvious big names that are on campus this weekend. A lot of people are looking at Cypress being that shutdown corner type. A lot of people are excited that he's on campus. The offense isn't it the offensive lineman that's from Auburn that's on?
Yep, Caden Jones. Not
Caden
Caden Jones. Is it Caden Jones? Anyways, yes, the guard from he's from Bainbridge too, isn't he?
Yeah, that's right. He's on campus. So we noticed that, a lot of people are worried about Florida State in the recruiting realm from the high school up. Someone made a tweet earlier that I thought was hilarious. Love watching all these people get these 5-star recruits because I know within 2 years Mike's going to get them in the transfer portal. So if you can't get them coming out of high school, let's get them after they developed a little bit or got tired of everybody else's crap. I don't disagree with that. I think that's not too bad. If they get a little bit of experience, let them go through their rough spots with other teams, and then we'll pull them in. There was a gentleman that entered the transfer portal today. I don't know if he's officially in yet, but the defensive end for South Carolina. From everything that I've read and seen, he's definitely a take for most. Does Florida State bat an eye at him? Do we go after him full-fledged? What are y'all's thoughts on him? Have you paid any attention to him, Taylor?
Yeah, I mean he's a pretty interesting prospect. You kind of have to look towards. His PFF grades are sitting at about 60 right now, so they're solid. I mean, he's a solid, I think, piece, but I don't necessarily think he's a surefire starter right now. I think everybody's kind of looking at that South Carolina pipeline that we've had so far and really looking at those guys and saying, man, we've really had some good South Carolina players come through Florida State at this point. I think he's solid, but like I said, if you want to add more depth, okay. But unless it's a surefire starter, I really just don't know. That's kind of the lack of the trenches so far in the portal. I think there really hasn't been much. So when you're looking at the offensive line, Byers is probably your top offensive line transfer target right now. And you're even taking a guy like Chris Ferrado, who I think is going to be more of a project, and Coach Atkins is going to have to kind of figure out what to do there. But just overall on both sides of the ball, there's not a whole lot there. I mean, Terrell Jackson was solid. I think he's a starter, but he's not like a can't-miss talent, I guess you could say right now. I think he's still got some room to develop, but overall, I think the trenches still need to be kind of developed in some form or fashion.
I think they saw something because they're recruiting body types. He's 6'5", 230 pounds, or at least that's what he was coming out of high school. I think he's a little bit bigger now. 2 sacks. They moved him from defensive end to more of a linebacker. So I guess in our system, you could probably put him into more of a situation where he's rushing the passer, probably a little bit more natural. He's got years of eligibility. So maybe they figured they could come in, put him in a proper system. And they got a chance to look at him relatively late in the game when Mike Norvell and staff first got on here because he's from Fort Pierce, Florida. And I think you just kind of kick the tires on him, knowing that, dead period's Monday. So obviously you're not going to sign him in this by next Wednesday. So you're hoping, over the next couple of days, but you want to see what happens with Verse. You want to see what happens with some other guys in your defensive end room, and then you want to see where you can develop from there. But I think it's just everything is dictated by Wednesday first, and then what happens after the bowl game as more guys make their announcements.
So a lot of fans are asking about this Andy Jean kid that's committed to Florida. That's who I'm assuming they're talking about. I guess there's some hearsay that he could potentially flip over to Florida State or potentially flip, period. Have y'all heard anything about Andy Jean flipping to anyone?
I'll let you go hang it first, James.
No, I mean, it was wrong. I mean, I don't know. Did he make the visit list this weekend? Because I know
he did, but I don't necessarily think it's so much of a priority right now. I think they're more worried about a Goldie Lawrence right now. We're trying to figure that situation out to see if he's going to be coming in because I believe he had something that come up, and I don't think he's coming anymore. So I think they're evaluating their options right now. But you got a guy like Vandrevius Jacobs you got a certified stud in him. You got Hakeem Williams. We all know how he is. They want to add 3 in this room. You had 3, but you really don't know about Goldie just yet. Will he kind of make it to February kind of thing, or will it be something in that realm? I just think you're opening up your options with Andy Jean. Florida's lost a couple of commits so far, and it's not really looking great as Miami got an offensive tackle prospect they were really into. and Sampson. So I'm just kind of figuring out what we're going to be doing with Andy Jean so far, and I wouldn't quite rule it out for a situation where it could get really interesting down the stretch.
Yeah, if you can get Andy Jean or even Mays from out of Wake Forest, with him not coming now, though, I don't think that situation. Well, actually, it doesn't really. Something I want fans to realize: if they don't sign on Wednesday, right, they can still enroll early. Like you can come early, you can enroll in January because there's your national letter of intent and then your grant and aid. The only thing you have to sign to be able to go to college is your grant and aid, which is the most important one. That's how they pay you. Like that's your financial aid package. But Goldie is a project, and if you could get somebody like Gene or somebody like Mays, who I'm not saying they're going to come in and start right away, but they can come in and start pushing and making the room better. I think those are good looks. But I think it's more so the fact that this kid's been committed for so long, and that this kid is going to, anytime you can try to flip a rival and vice versa, it's all about the troll. A lot of these kids don't even know if this kid is any good. He's good, I can tell you that, but it's really more so if we flip him, he's the greatest wide receiver this side of the Mississippi. Like he's the best thing since Randy Moss. If he goes to a rival, he wasn't that good, he wasn't a take. That's basically the way people look at stuff in recruiting.
Let me ask this question. So obviously we're going to play Miami and Florida again in the 2023 season. We beat both of them this year, considering ourselves now the state champions of the state of Florida. What is Florida going to do for a QB, seeing how Anthony Richardson's moving on? Their backup is locked up for kiddie porn. I don't even know who their third string was, but are they looking for a portal QB? They would have to be, right?
Oh, yeah. They're shopping a lot of these guys. There was a lot of rumors that they thought they were going to get Drake May. They thought that they tried to push for my guy at Wake Forest. They thought they were going to get the Utah. They think they're getting everybody that's coming out, but right now their starting quarterback is going to be he was a third string quarterback at Ohio
Miller?
State.
Yeah.
You said, what'd you say his name?
Was it Jack Miller, right?
Yeah, Jack Miller. So that's I think who I saw was on their starting depth chart today. But I think they've got to go portal. Obviously, because there's going to be a tremendous amount of pressure on Rashida coming out the gate. And congratulations on him getting his 5th star. But yeah, that's going to be that's probably not the way I would want to introduce my college career coming in like that.
Yeah, I will say this too. There was a guy I was kind of looking out for. It's the Western Kentucky quarterback, Austin Reed. His parents were both Florida alums. And that was the situation where I thought last year he had actually told them he wanted to come in. Did not happen. I'd actually had multiple conversations with him because I was thinking Florida State was going to push for him. They never pushed for him. He went to Western Kentucky to get a year, is now entering as a grad transfer, and decided to withdraw his name. So not only did Florida lose out on a 5-star offensive tackle, they also lost out on an Austin Reed that could have went to Florida and been able to do that as well.
Not quite yet.
You know,
not saying he's going to Florida, but cheating here.
Yeah,
he trains with Denny Thompson, and Denny Thompson's my guy. So I know Austin very well. I know the entire FSU situation with again, as we talked about. If people knew 90% of the stuff that comes across most of our desks that we don't choose to talk about, it probably could fill a book. But and sometimes the truth is way stranger than fiction. But Austin is going to compete in the spring, and then see where because interesting story about him. Interesting. Matter of fact, I will state this, and this is let everybody know how crazy. I don't want to say crazy, but how much faith they had in the decision that they were going to have Jordan Travis. So Austin Reed, this would be. It sounds bad, but he's a phenomenal kid. It's about betting on yourself. So he signed to a college out of high school. Didn't like what happened. Went to a junior college. Nobody get it. He went to West Florida. He went to West Florida in the summer because he didn't graduate early enough. He told the coach, "I don't care. Just give me the playbook when I get here. I'm going to take this job. And not only did he take the job, he won the D2 Heisman Trophy award, basically, on pace for a national championship. Then they had COVID. The COVID year messed him up. Played again. Was trying to transfer out then, but then was thinking about Florida State. Ended up going to Western Kentucky again. Told Florida State, I'm going to transfer in the summertime. I'm not worried about all the other stuff. You can do whatever you need to do in the spring. When I come in, I'm coming to take that job. Didn't work at Florida State, but when he went to Western Kentucky, his ability to process a playbook and his effective leadership is crazy. I was really hoping that Austin did come because they would have loved him. They would have loved him. Absolutely loved him. And the thought was this, is if Jay Trav decided that, because I got the text and the calls, hey man, what's Jay Trav doing? I was like, man, y'all act like I got Jay Trav on the direct the Nextel direct connect. Like, I don't know what he's doing. I hope he comes back, because if Jay Trav would have left, I think Austin would have been on the first thing smoking in Tallahassee.
Yeah, and me personally, so I'm trying to figure out all this. We've got, the Florida Gators that will potentially be a decent team next year, depending on what quarterback they get. They played decent this year. They were definitely better than their 6-6 record. But they lost 6 games. Facts are facts. They still lost the games, but they had better potential than what they showed. The team that I can't get over, and I'll never be able to get over these guys, and I don't know if it's the team. I mean, I guess even their fake billionaire over there says the same shit. So it's kind of hard for me to understand. Every offseason, they're going to win a national title. They're going to go 12-0. They're going to beat us into an annihilation. We're going to be embarrassed, etc. They're recruiting at a top 5 level, whatever. Guys, Miami fans, the ones that are in here, because I see you trolling, you can get all the 4 and 5 stars you want. You just had a team full of 4 and 5 stars, at least 4 stars. You've had multiple 4 stars. Y'all are supposed to be great this past year. You couldn't win. You couldn't beat Middle Tennessee State. Now, you think next year, with losing 20 some odd players in the transfer portal and bringing in a bunch of 2023 kids that are going to be true freshmen, might I add, you think a bunch of true freshmen are going to come in and start beating up on teams in college with a coach that is terrible at game day coaching? He's absolutely he's a recruiter. That's what he is. He puts on his loafers. He takes Ruiz's money. He backs it up and brings them in. If they flash a lot of money, this is what I was going to bring up. There's going to be an article come out. Get this, people. Breaking news. And I didn't get it from anybody that you know. There's going to be an article come out that tells the truth about NIL and what NIL groups have been completely lying, stating that they're paying all of this money to get these kids to come in. This article is going to be by one of the biggest names in college football. This person is so reputable that it's insane. He might as well be considered what's the guy on the pros that every time he says something is true, like he predicts stuff? What's his name?
Wojciechowski?
No, it starts with an S, I think. But it doesn't matter. The guy that's always predicting, like, oh, he's going to Green Bay now, or he's going here. Schumer, it's something like that. Y'all know who I'm talking about. The little white dude. Anyways, that guy. So this guy is that guy in college football. See, this is how much. Yeah, there it is. Scheffner, whatever his name is.
Scheffner. Yeah.
So this is the college football of him. He's fixing to drop an article in the next few weeks from what has all been going around that is going to pull out the lying NIL groups that are stating that they're paying hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars for these kids to be at their schools. James and I have been telling people for months upon months that these big numbers that you're hearing are not realistic. They aren't even real. And people just keep, oh, it's a couple million here. No college is going, and if they do, they have problems. No college is going to give an offensive tackle $800,000 to come to their school straight out of high school. There is no ROI on that. Zero. There is no way you're going to pay $800,000 for a kid that's in high school to come and play at offensive tackle or whatever position on the line. You're not paying him $800,000. That's what they're making in the NFL, guys. Like we're not paying people that. Colleges aren't paying, boosters at colleges are not paying someone $800,000 to come play an offensive line position. They're not even paying quarterbacks $800,000 to come play.
I just tell people like this. Just having touched a little bit of money in my lifetime, having also grown up in the inner city. If you've never had money and then all of a sudden you get money, you can typically see when you got money. And I don't mean that always in a negative way, but like the January 15th through April 15th, that's when you see all the new Jordans. That's when you see the new used vehicles. That's when you see a lot of the stuff happen because people have their income tax check. They just got a surplus of $6,000 to $10,000, and they go and they buy things that they need. So you mean to tell me that, okay, so that's just one thing. And then 17 to 19-year-olds are some of the most immature people we've ever met. And everybody that I asked all my friends, hey, when you got your NFL check, when you got your NBA check, what did you do? You know what 90% of us all said? We blew it. So that was years ago with all the information out there. It's gotten worse. You mean to tell me that this is now the most fiscally responsible group of young men and women that just now they're getting this and they're investing in 401ks and the S&P 500 and they're getting high yield interest accounts and all these things? No. Now, it's not saying that there aren't some big deals, but those are few and far in between. Endorsement deals are hard for. I just saw one tweet. I think it was a troll, but they said a kid from Notre Dame turned down an Oregon offer in Ohio State or something like that for $2 million as safety. I said, so you mean to tell me that you people think that somebody's going to be worth more than the starting safety in the NFL that's 17 years old? Like, one, if somebody wants to pay that, God bless. That's your right as an American business owner, but it's all about ROI and being fiscally responsible. Forget, even if you like your university, to pay somebody $2 million, I better be getting 6 back. Like, this is business at that point. It's not just about buying one player, but they're getting opportunities and it's the boogeyman. But I'm just glad guys like Pate are finally saying, Josh Pate, I think that's his name, are like finally saying things that me and Chris have been saying since this started. These deals are not what you think they are.
It's just like, everybody keeps talking about Travis Hunter. He went to Deion Sanders because he got $1 million or $2 million deal. Travis Hunter had the greatest comeback that I think has happened so far. He said, if I had $1 million, why's my mama still living in the hood? He said, if I was given all that money, why is my mama still in the hood? I don't have a car, but I was given $1 million to come here. Doesn't make any sense. If you're not going to give it to the number one player in college football that's coming out of the class, you're going to tell me you're giving it to an offensive guard. You're giving him $800,000 to come play for your team, but they wouldn't give it to the number one prospect in the nation. It doesn't make sense. I will tell y'all the way that these things are structured tells you that they can go make a couple of $100,000, $300,000 or $400,000 if they sell. What was it? $125 packages to people, then they would make that. Well, ain't no college student got time to sell $20 or $125 packages. The point is, this person saying Travis Hunter went to an HBCU. The point was, everybody said the reason that he did was because Barstool paid him $1 million to do it. That's what was said. So his rebuttal was, if I received $1 million, why is my mama still in the hood? I wasn't paid $1 million to come to an HBCU. You've got a lot of kids that are stating that they're leaving schools based off of they didn't get paid what they were promised. There's a lot of kids hitting the transfer portal saying the whole reason that they're leaving is because so and so promised them this amount of money and they didn't get it. They haven't even been paid one penny yet. So that's why they left. I can tell you that with us being in the NIL company for the time that we were, there wasn't one company that came in and said, hey, we want to give your kids $1 million to come here. And when we were talking to the collectives in North Carolina, the collectives down in Gainesville, the collective that was over in Maryland, not one of those collectives ever said that they had $1 million deal for anybody, not even $100,000 deal for anybody. So out of all these collectives that are the ones receiving the money to give to these kids, to these young athletes, not one of them said that they had anything near the number that some people are reporting. So until you can drop a contract that shows me that they are making 100, 200,000, 600,000, 800,000, it's all a number that someone decided to say because there's no fact. You have no proof. All of these Lamborghinis you see these kids taking pictures with or GT40s, guys, it's a rental. They go and rent the cars from Exotic Cars. Or, I mean, you can even go to the MTV Cribs when that first came out. Most of the people's houses that you saw were rentals. They were renting the house.
Only one episode was real.
Only one.
That was Redman. That was Redman. He said, "This is exactly where I'm living at."
So it's, to me, I'm glad that more and more people are starting to catch on to it and starting to notice that this is just a bunch of people making a big deal out of now that NIL is around for college football. Look, guys, it's great for clicks. It's great to get people's attention to say that college athletes are making millions of dollars. It's not true. It's just not. I'm sorry. I hate to tell you, but there's no way that college athletics can afford to pay the players that the NFL owners, billionaires, can't or aren't paying that amount of money. So what are we competing with here? There's no point in to go to the NFL if you can pay them $2 million a year to be here in college. They don't have to go into the NFL at that point. Unless they want to keep making money. But why the hell would you? It just doesn't make sense. There's going to be a separation between professional sports and college sports, regardless of how they're able to get paid. It's not going to happen. Sorry. There's just Church's Chicken ain't giving no kid $500,000 to come play for South Carolina. It's not happening. Sorry.
Guys over here will. I tell you what, if we wanted to, if we did a fan fundraiser right here and said, let's raise whatever we raise right now. If you do the super chat or whatever, we'll pay a student athlete to come on. Let's say you raise $35, and this wasn't because they're doing it off of the love for us. It was just 35 regular bucks, and this is a random podcast. You want to know what the kids gonna do? They're gonna do the podcast for $35. Do you think a multi-million? I'd make the joke all the time, and I hope everybody gets to be. I mean, and I'm not nowhere near the level of successful I want to, but every morning I have to judge if I feel like waking up, if it's worth it or not. Like, you gotta pay me a lot to get me out of my bed, because I know for a fact that I only have to talk 3 times a week. Like, that's the only thing I have to do is talk for about a minimum of an hour, average of 3 times a week. And it's very difficult for me to like function anything else outside of that, unless it's it makes me feel good. It's like it's intrinsic value, and it's a actual fiscal value. So I'm not saying that to disparage these guys, because I know what it's like to be a college student, but like they're literally like they're going after that. There are guys who do make some money though, but it's just not what you think.
Well, Taylor, big question. Who do you think is on campus this weekend that might not be being paid attention to, or maybe they even are? But what's some names that you would say are on campus this weekend that Florida State fans should be on the lookout for?
I would definitely say Keandre Jones, the Auburn inside offensive lineman. It's a situation where he's got a good relationship with Alex Atkins. This is a guy that's got 2 years remaining of his college eligibility. So it is a guy that they're looking at, because you look at Dylan Gibbons and you also look at Demetri Emmanuel. I think those are two guys that are exceeded their eligibility, and also Jazz Turntine has as well. You got a guy like Bless Harris that's got an upper body injury. So you have to figure out how to do that. And with Coach Atkins, he's not taking but about 3 offensive linemen in this class total, recruits and transfers. You've got Lucas Simmons in the class. You're probably going to have Chris Parado. You're pretty much going to guarantee that going into the commitment for that, because really the only school that was really going after him was Stanford. They're without David Shaw now. So it's a situation now where you're looking at it and saying, okay, those are our 2 foundational recruits. Now we have to figure out where to go with the transfer for the last kind of spot. I don't necessarily know if there's any offensive lineman on the rotation right now that I can clearly say is going to be a huge upgrade, because, like I said, the trenches in the portal aren't the greatest. You got Julian Armella that's still working a little bit more on his technique. I think he still needs a little bit more work there. Jalen Early is a very talented guy as well, but he needs more work. I just think those guys need a little more time to groom. While I do think Armella is going to be part of the rotation, I just don't know if you're going to have enough from a Zane Herring or a Thomas Schrader or Bryson Estes, who I think is very talented, but can they all put in kind of this consistent effort and being able to be more consistent as a quality reserve? And I think that's going to be the problem that Alex Atkins is going to come into the season. Can he find 7-8 guys that he's very comfortable with? That's going to be kind of the key going into this weekend, to see if they can get any guys to come in.
I agree, because the transfer portal is extremely hard to pull in quality offensive linemen. We got Turntine last year. He did well, but he wasn't
even started. I mean,
right. He wasn't even supposed to start.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this on Falk flipping to Auburn? Is that looking more and more likely, or is people worrying about something they shouldn't be?
Well, I mean, coming from the area he's from, originally I was only about 30 minutes away from him. It's more Auburn, Alabama country over there, specifically Auburn, because Auburn is not that far of a drive. He's always loved that school, but the problem is the coaching staff issues. Having to bring in a new staff like Hugh Freeze, who I think is a very good coach. I think it could elevate them to a 7-8 win team. But the problem is like they're so young. It's so dysfunctional right now. You really don't know what you're going to get. It's an SEC school with a lot of opportunities, but at the same time, it's a rebuilding program that has Alabama, Georgia, all those guys kind of breathing down your neck and trying to be successful. I think when you're looking at John Papuchis, he actually came in and did a recent visit with him and is supposed to be coming in this weekend. Now, if he doesn't and he kind of delays a little bit of his situation there, I think he's supposed to be coming in tomorrow. So going to be really interesting to see how Florida State kind of shifts that recruitment, because if Auburn kind of gets a little bit more traction, especially in that Alabama area that he's in, it could be really interesting coming down the stretch. But as of right now, I wouldn't worry about it too much. If it was Tennessee that we're concerned about, I would understand, but we're more concerned about Auburn in this situation because of the push they're having.
I think it's also, you got to, this is where having, I think FSU will eventually get this with Mike Alford and Stephen Ponder being in control, where your off the field resources have to be the most intense. And this isn't suggesting that they haven't been able to do their research on this guy, but there are things that come up with recruits and with families that when you have a huge off-field recruiting staff like Florida and Miami has, or most SEC schools have, you can go and research the prospect and research the different things, and multiple people can go develop relationships and then also feel like, all right, here are the heartstrings. Here's the things. One of the things that I've heard, mother's extremely religious. I'm not here to, I love it. I have friends of all walks of life. I think it's hilarious that Hugh Freeze is considered this pillar of Christianity here, but he knows the Bible. He was at Liberty. He leads with this and it talks, and that is for a Southern mother, that is something that is very important. the great Bobby Bowden led with that all the time. He used to tell people, I'm gonna take your son gonna go to 2 church services a year minimum with me, as long as he's being coached by me. We're gonna take him to a black church, we're gonna take him to a white church. So he ain't gonna be able to say he don't know where to go. And he always told you that on the recruiting trail. But when you have these different things, those are the things that do mean something and matter. Because it's not saying that Coach Norvell is not. Coach Norvell obviously is a man of faith, but he doesn't lead with that. He leads with my energy. I'm here to lead men. But looking at what Papuchis has done, looking at what the defensive scheme is, looking at what he identifies that, you can clearly show him a Jared Verse. You can show him a Patrick Payton. You can show him, hey, man, this is where you're going to be able to come lined up in. And if it does happen, it would suck. But at the end of the day, I think when you look at who we do have coming in, Boots, I think Boots is – I'm going to talk about this. He might. I don't think people are doing it on purpose. It's just because we feel like he's been committed since he was like in 7th grade. We grew up. This is the first time. And I told his dad this. It's the first time. It gives me hope for my kids. Like, you saw Boots when he was just all Adam's apple and big goggle glasses. To get to one day, I'm just like, man, this kid is awkward, man. To one day, he got his man muscles. Mm-hmm. And then you're just like, oh goodness, like, and then you're looking at the highlights. But Boots is a kid that's gonna come in and just if he's gonna die, he's gonna die on the treadmill. Like, you're gonna have to outwork him, and I think that's what we have to realize. We got a class full of guys that are gonna fit the mentality. Win on the field, then get the guys. But you need people that when these 4 and 5 stars come here, they know what the standard is and how to live up to the standard. That's what Mike Norvell's had to build, and I think that's why you see kids leaving Texas A&M. That's why you see guys being tired of the Miami part. It is not that it can't work, but if you don't win right away, it fades. It fades so quick, and you have to have people on there you have to have the Telvin Smiths that are there, that are the 3-star, not the highest recruited guy, but he's going to go out there and work. And if you don't work when you're around him, he's either going to knock the person in front of him out, and if you're not there when he's knocking them out, he's going to knock you out too. And if you don't have those guys, you don't have a program, you don't have a standard. You have to have something where the players coach themselves. If the coaches have to always coach, then you don't have a team. When the players coach themselves and hold themselves accountable, then you have a championship level team. That has no bearing on fault. But what I'm just saying is you got guys like Lamont Green Jr. who are coming in here that I think we should be fine with.
I will ask this, Chris, and I kind of want to get your opinion on this as well, because James kind of alluded to it a little bit before about Hugh Freeze being at Liberty. But he has had some scandals in the past with some DMs and some other things that have kind of surfaced up in the area, and he hasn't been the greatest when he was at Ole Miss either. There was some kind of controversy there. Do you think that kind of concerns a Falk's mother that's kind of a Christian-like person? And on top of that, I wanted to ask you also, he talked about Boots and Falk, but nobody ever talks about Jaden Jones, the 4-star JUCO defensive end that we had gotten also. He's more of a project, and he did tear his ACL this past season, so he's having to recover from that. But he is coming in as an early enrollee, and I just don't think he's really getting talked about enough.
So you want my opinion on the mother and Hugh Freeze? Yes, I think even if you're not a faith-driven person, there's still morals that you have to follow. And if your DMs are stuck full of hookers or drug dealers or whatever it is, you have to question if that's who your son's going to be around. I mean, I wouldn't want to send any of my children to someone that I don't know if they're going to end up in prison because they're helping coach get laid, or I have no idea what they're doing. They could be at a club with the coach for all I know. I mean, look at Urban Meyer. He was in the NFL, and his wife was, I guess, I don't know where she's at, but got a girl grinding up on him. Yes. I mean, you saw what it did to him morally. He ultimately ended up being removed from the Jacksonville Jaguars because of his moral actions. Hugh Freeze lost his job at Ole Miss because of his moral actions. At Liberty, I don't know what he's done right or wrong, but yes, I would very much question whether my son's around the leader of the entire football program has moral issues with whatever you want to call it. So yes, I would think that would be a huge eyebrow to raise, and I don't know if there's any conversation you can have with her to prove her safe. Like I don't think you'll get that. So I think mom's choice is going to be stay away, but it's not solely her choice. And yes, the 4-star gentleman that you're bringing up is he is a project, but is he the project that's going to work? Like James was talking about just a minute ago, is he the one that's going to outwork everybody? Yeah, okay, he's got an ACL that he tore in the past season. I think that's why time to tell is so great. What I can say is that I have faith in his coaching staff, especially Papuchis, on evaluating talent because of what he brought in with Jermaine Johnson, Jared Verse, what he's turning Pat Payton into, and he brought this other kid in as well. Yeah, I think that you definitely have to worry about him being just as good as the next guy because they evaluated him. They wanted him. If they didn't want him, or if they wanted him, he's got to be something that they wanted.
Well, the biggest thing with me is when you look at a guy like Jaden Jones, he wasn't even really getting recruited by Florida State. They were actually just going to watch Malik Benson, who I believe committed to Alabama, if I remember correctly, and watch him go practice. That wasn't even a situation where they were even going to go watch him. They literally just it stuck out to them so much that they said, you know what, this guy's 6'6", 245 pounds. Hasn't even really had much starting experience, and they brought him on and said, you know what, we're going to offer you. We're going to take a chance on you. He was able to play a little bit and be a starter this past season before he had the injury, and I think it's just something to kind of evaluate. I think the staff really loved what they saw, and I think even with the injury, you're going to have to figure out everything else with athleticism and everything on the defensive end side, but I think that's a guy they really have confidence on. They can kind of mold into something special.
I agree. I'm just not sure. Like, I haven't heard much about him. Like you said, not a lot of people have been talking about him. But again, like you said, they went there to see somebody else. They seen enough talent to bring him in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they took a shot. I think it was worth taking.
Yeah, I mean, we talk pretty often. I mean, he's actually Montgomery was like 40 minutes from where I lived and everything at the time. So, I mean, we had that connection already, and I already knew who he was. But I didn't know that he had went over to Hutchinson in Kansas. So it was just kind of a situation there where, you know, I think the staff really enjoyed it because I don't think he quite had the grades, I'm assuming is what it was, off of academics. It probably didn't have a lot of people scouting him either because that school was not very big. So it just kind of come to the situation where I think Florida State understood what they wanted to do at that position, having a developmental guy, but also having those 2 4-star studs they have in Boots and also Keldrick Falk. I think is a nice kind of combination to where you're not solely relying on him in year one.
Any updates on Cameron Robinson or Conrad Hussey? Because the last that I heard, we had a really good shot at flipping Cameron, and Conrad seemed to really enjoy himself. So, any updates on him in the past couple days?
You're talking about Gene earlier, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, this is cryptic tweet season right here. Can I read it real quick?
Sure.
Lord, guide me in the right path, leaving it in your hands. While he's on the visit. I wonder how the fans are gonna react to that, man. Oh man.
So he's on the visit at Florida State, and that's what he posted.
Yeah, that's what he posted. That's not
oh Lord.
That feels good to
so
me. I don't know.
Yeah, it feels great to me. I love it. Hopefully we get that from Cameron Robinson and Conrad Hussey soon. But is there any updates on them too?
Not really right now. Robinson really likes the staff. They pushed on him early. Staff really likes him. The Virginia situation is a train wreck, as we all know. Conrad Hussey on the other end, he hasn't visited Penn State in 6 months. I mean, it's kind of a weird situation. Florida State's always been a dream school, so it's a situation now where you're wanting to get both of those guys in. I don't think the numbers of the defensive back position interfere with Hussey being in the class. I think they literally take 5, maybe even 6 defensive backs. They really want to flip that room. And you saw this past season, even with the number 1 pass defense in the ACC, they needed to shore up that room, and I think they're going to do that this recruiting cycle.
Well, everybody, we've got Cypress is another one. I mean, we started talking about him in the first place. Taylor, you got anything about Cypress?
Yeah, that's kind of where the whole iceberg came into play, I guess you could say. I was told on Monday that he was on the list. Told him don't say anything until you get some media guys out there reporting it, because he didn't know when to report it. Didn't want to jeopardize his job, so I said, okay, fine. It's a pretty close friend of mine. Basically went ahead and did that. As soon as I posted it, that was when all crap broke loose on a prospect that I don't even think is going to come to Florida State. Personally, I think he's visiting just to visit. He's going to probably be announcing around the late December, early January type of situation. I think Ohio State stands a pretty good chance if he's able to visit. That's the problem, is if he's able to visit. I think Florida State is in a better spot with an official visit, but you never can tell with some of these kids.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, we've got about 4 minutes left. If y'all don't mind, let them know where to find you at real quick and fall off, and I'm going to finish up. Taylor, you can go first.
You can find me at the backup of Noles 24/7. Still all their content at Norvell Central, and also on Twitter. You can find me on Central Norvell. I'm sure you can find it on Brendan Sinone's Twitter account. He has talked enough about it today. Sure enough, you'll find me there, and I assure you he will find me some way. So
appreciate it. I don't know how you're going to follow that up, James, but let them know where to follow you.
At Big Game James _36 on Twitter and IG, James Anthony Coleman II on Facebook. Check out the tailgate, the End All Tailgates. We got a good giveaway. There's a Charlie Ward jersey, Sammy Smith, encased, Sammy Smith jersey, not encased, Derwin James jersey encased. We'll probably have a few other different things, memorabilia signings, as well as former players. All of that's included. You get a raffle ticket already. It's going to be a randomizer. If you want to purchase more tickets, money sign MFTK36 on Cash App. But if you have a tailgate ticket, you got one already. So appreciate everybody. Continue. We're over about 110 right now. The goal is to get 300. Actually, the goal is to get as many people as we can. But we definitely want to see if we can get 300 or more Noles in one area just vibing. So appreciate you. Talk to you later, Chris. Happy birthday, buddy.
Appreciate it. Well, everybody, real quick, make sure that you go and follow me on Twitter, which is at Spear Addicts. Instagram is also at Spear Addicts. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the bell for the notifications. Again, guys, look, when I tell you that we mean no harm toward anyone, no one means any harm toward the big guys, 247, War Chant. We're not trying to hurt anybody. We're not stealing any information from anybody. If you knew Taylor personally, you would know how great of a person he is. He's not that type of person. He doesn't go stealing stuff from people. I don't. James doesn't. And we really do get to talk to a lot of these people. We really do talk. We get most of our information from the source itself. When we say we have sources, 99% of the time, that's the athlete themselves. We bring on a lot of athletes. We talk to a lot of athletes. Go look at Taylor's page over the years. He's done Q&As with guys for years. He talks to these young men often. But we appreciate everybody's support. We know y'all are going to keep supporting us regardless. We love each and every one of you. I do appreciate all of the happy birthdays. It was a great birthday. My wife and kids obviously made it amazing. With that said, everybody, y'all be on the lookout for the next couple of videos. And like I said, there's a lot of news coming. We know that because of the athletes that are telling us, not anyone else. Y'all have a good